Hey, what's going on everyone? Dean and Vinny here with another video for you guys. Today, we're gonna be talking about 12 mistakes to avoid as a beginning filmmaker. Man, I wish I watched a video like this when I first started because this is a condensed format of all the things we've learned through the years, not because we're so great at what we do, but because we've made a ton of mistakes and we've learned from them, reflected, and pivoted. Number one tip: always buying trendy gear. Oh man, this one gets me every time because here's the thing. When I started, man, I still do this. I'm scrolling through B&H, Autorama, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, just looking for the latest and greatest. Now, there is new gear, new tech coming out literally every single week. So in order to keep up with all that, it's nearly impossible. Throw that on top of the millions of voices that are telling you to buy this, buy that. You really want to focus on the gear that's going to support your work. And your work might change from year to year or season to season, and that's great. Stick to what you need to get your job done and to make your clients really happy with your work. Don't just be chasing everything that's out there that somebody says you need. Try things out. Make sure it's stuff that you really absolutely need as an essential tool for your job or to help you be more creative. Speaking of which, always chasing the latest and greatest in trendy gear, not only is that really expensive, but it sometimes stunts your growth as a creative, learning the tools and learning the processes of your job. For example, if you get the latest and greatest autofocusing gear that you have out there, you might skip a lot of critical steps of knowing how to focus yourself, how to expose correctly, even how to operate a camera when all the auto functions don't work. So not always buying the latest and greatest gear sometimes helps you learn in an appropriate stepwise fashion so you can learn the basics and be really good when you do get that really cool gear. Now, since we're on the topic of gear, let's talk about number two, not buying the cheapest gear out there. Now, I get it. Starting out, everybody's got a budget. Even when you're way down the road in your career, you've got a budget. You can't just spend all your money that you earn on gear, on stuff that, cameras and lenses and lights and microphones and computers. I totally get it. But again, this is why it's so important not to buy into the trendy gear, right? Figuring out exactly what you need to get your job done efficiently really help you save money in the long run. And that doesn't always mean buying the cheapest. If it's something that you're going to be using a lot, something that you're going to be relying on professionally, and maybe something you rely on from a safety perspective, it's probably worth the money to spend a little extra in that department. A great example is a tripod. Starting off with a very cheap, flimsy tripod, man, you're putting probably the most expensive piece of gear that you own on the tripod. So it might be worth investing in a tripod that really can hold up and can really protect your gear. Also, making sure you're spending good money on stuff that gets banged around a lot. For example, if you've got lighting that you're having to use outside a lot, or you're on set with a lot of different people, or you're gonna be running and gunning with it, throwing it in a suitcase or in a Pelican, you're gonna be traveling with it, you probably don't wanna cheap out and buy the least expensive plastic housing light that's not waterproof. Well, when it comes time for you to be using that thing, you're gonna be replacing it over and over and over again. And in some cases, you're probably gonna be spending more money buying 10 of the cheapest thing than just buying the one thing that really will take you through the years. Now, on one hand, you don't want us to buy the latest and greatest, and then you're saying don't save money and buy the cheapest. Well, there's a lot of different ways to get the right tool that you need that is still pretty up to par with the current trends and up to par with what's out there, but buying it pre-owned, or what we like to call pre-loved. There are a ton of websites out there that offer that. Some websites are a little bit sketchier than others. Some are a little bit more credible, but looking into the pre-owned or the pre-owned market is a great idea to level up your gear or to buy the gear that you really need, but you might not have the budget to afford it brand new. For example, people get into this industry all the time. Now, we hope that everybody watching here sticks with this craft for a long time. But the reality of it is, people go through gear because they change their mind. They might have bought a brand new Aperture 600D and they realized, man, I just don't need it. It might not even just be a change in their career. It might just be that they're changing what they're doing from season to season. Maybe they were shooting a lot of documentaries with it. Now they're doing a lot of run and gun nature photography or wildlife videography. they don't need a studio full of lights. That's a great time for you to capitalize on buying it pre-owned from somebody that's used it for a while, and it's still a great piece of gear. Now, to sum up all this gear talk, make sure you're really buying gear that is appropriate for what you're trying to do.
Okay, believe it or not, common mistake number 4 is not practicing enough. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's something we see quite often with filmmakers. Think of an athlete that's preparing for the start of an NFL season or an athlete preparing for the Olympics. There's countless hours of studying, practice, and repetitions, and it's no different in filmmaking. And nowadays, with all of the access to free education through YouTube, like this channel, shameless plug, there really isn't any excuse not to know how to operate your camera, how to change settings in a pressure situation, or staying up to date with the latest technology. And just like any good athlete, they're not just learning, but doing, applying the knowledge that you're absorbing through YouTube, a seminar, or a paid course, and exercising those new skills in a controlled environment. This is very important. Have a space where you can practice and apply new techniques. We always tell people this, but we're just a bunch of church kids. That's how it all got started. We served every week, brought in our new gear, our camera rigs, and just practiced. And those times were priceless. And if you've ever been in or have worked in a church before, you know how fast and loose they operate. So we had to adjust and learn how to be flexible. Things might happen spontaneously, and we had to have our head on a swivel. It taught us not only to be faster and more efficient with our camera, but also faster editors and more receptive and flexible to feedback. And beyond the early years to even today, Dean and I are constantly studying new tech and techniques, practicing at home, setting up different types of scenes. So just fall in love with the training because it will certainly pay off in the long run. Okay, this leads me to common mistake number 5. Don't try out your brand new gear on set for a paid client. Make sure you have thoroughly practiced with it and have learned it before implementing it. Now, not all gear is made equal. Obviously, a light isn't as much of a learning curve as a new camera. And I've been guilty of breaking this rule just out of sheer excitement of wanting to use a new piece of gear. But like I mentioned earlier, have that training ground. Whether it's your house or serving at a church, utilize those spaces where there's no pressure or no consequences if something doesn't go right. And even if it is as simple as a new light, I always test it out before bringing it out on set. I'll set up a scene at the house, or at the very least, I'll just plug it in and run through the menu and all the features just to get acclimated with that new piece of gear. And that leads us into common mistake number 6, comparing yourself with others. This industry is hard enough as it is, but when you add on top of that measuring yourself with others, it truly does strip the joy and love out of it and puts you in a deficit mindset, and that's not a good place to be. Instead of challenging each other to be better, you're now tearing each other down and turning a potential good thing into a bad situation. And this is a mindset. This takes work up top. You have to put the Men in Black glasses on and not allow your past experiences to ruin your new relationships. Maybe you have your guard up because someone stabbed you in the back before, but it's imperative to remember the past, not to live in it. Remember, we are all in our own lane, and there is no one on this planet that can do what we can do. We have a different mindset amongst our crew. Instead of comparing and competing with each other, we serve each other. And if we're all serving each other, then no one has a need because we're all taken care of. Because then we're thinking outwardly instead of inwardly. Like, how can I surpass this person? Or how can they see how good I am? Or I would have done better if I had the camera in my hands. And if you're in a work environment that encourages tearing down and competing with others, then I encourage you, just do your job, be humble, respect others, refine your craft, and serve folks around you. You be the difference. There's too many of us out there just doing what everyone else is doing. But what would our industry look like if we humbled ourselves, served those around us instead of tearing each other down, and strive for excellence through relentless practice? Now, understanding these concepts aren't just learned on your own. And that leads us to common mistake number 7, is not having a mentor. It's crucial to have someone in your life that can call you out on your poop.
Poop again! He called the poop!
call you higher, encourage you, speak life into you, and want more for you than they even want for themselves. That's a servant leader. That's the kind of mentor you want in your life. Now, sometimes mentors are folks you may not really align with in terms of beliefs and values, but that's okay. Learn from them, whether it's through their successes or even through their mistakes. Mentors shouldn't be looked at as someone that can never fail you. In fact, if you view it with that lens, you will always miss the point when a mentor or someone you hold with high regard wrongs you or just misses the mark and makes a mistake. Remember, situations aren't done to you, they're done for you. That person wronged me, but I know they didn't do it to me, but for me, so that I can learn what not to do in that situation. Or my mentor handled this situation with confidence and boldness, so now you know what to do in a similar situation. A mentor isn't just someone that can tell you, it's someone that can show you. Again, that situation or that person didn't do that to you, but for you so that you can learn what to do or what not to do. Here's another one that has some relation to the previous two topics, and that's burning yourself out. The best way to avoid burnout is by surrounding yourself with other people that are on the same journey as you. There's just something magical about being around other folks that are just as passionate as you. Something special about getting into extremely nerdy conversations about gear and secretly challenging each other to be better because that person is also getting better. Another way to avoid burnout may sound a bit strange, and we may be a bit crazy in thinking this, but we love the unknown. We love not knowing when and where the next project will be. It lights a fire under us to continue grinding and stay motivated in finding new clients and to go above and beyond for the clients we already have to maintain that relationship. We don't have that growing complacency that you might get if you're working full-time for one client. Now, again, this may be that we're just crazy church kids and we have a strong faith that God will continue providing for us. But we have experience in both sides of this, working full-time for one client and freelancing for multiple clients. And we've actually turned down multiple clients that have requested our services full-time because we know how it is. You slowly grow complacent, you slowly start losing that fire and appreciation that you once had when you were freelancing. And freelancing isn't easy. It's super scary at times, but it's a whole lot easier when you surround yourself with others.
Okay, tip number 9. Oftentimes we as creatives get caught in this thought of pushing our agenda, or maybe we want to try a different type of lighting, or man, we really got to use the red on this shoot. But the reality of it is you've got to develop a relationship with your client, really understand who they are and what their needs are, because at the end of the day, we're serving them and not serving our best interests. Obviously, we want to stand firm as creatives and we want to be the experts in the room. So when there is some pushback on things that you know technically have to go a certain way, by all means, I want you to step into that and be the expert and the voice of reason. But when it comes to certain things like what time of day it's shot, or how are we shooting it, or where are we shooting it, a lot of those things, hey, be cool about it. It's all about the client. The clients are paying us, they're commissioning us, even if it's on a free gig. You're the one that agreed to do that work for somebody. Even if there's no money exchanged, you have an obligation to that person or those people or that group to do the job that you said you would do. Because at the end of the day, the only thing we really have is our word. And if we can't support our word and go back on that, that's going to hurt us more than if we don't have the right lighting or the right lens. Now, one thing that beginning filmmakers often have a tough time doing is setting a price for their work. I get it. If you Google how much is a wedding photography shoot, you'll get 100 different answers of how much you should charge. The reality of it is you've got to make sure that you cover yourself on quite a few different costs, not just your time to show up and do a shoot or to produce some photos and a video. Number one, you got to think about all the different things that you have to buy. We just talked about all the gear, whether you're buying it pre-owned, brand new, the latest and greatest, or you're frugal in your budgeting, you're having to spend a ton of money on stuff. This is stuff that your clients don't ever see. They just see you roll in, shoot a video, and that's it, or shoot some photos and that's it. But they don't understand that, hey, even beyond just the camera and the lens, you have to buy batteries, you have to buy memory cards, you have to buy charging cables. all that stuff adds into the total cost of how you do your living. And that's just the filming or the photography part. Wait till you go into post and you're editing. Then you've got to buy a computer, you've got to buy hard drives, you've got to get subscriptions to music services, to motion graphics, to stock imagery. And before you know it, that cost adds up really, really quick. A great way to do this is to figure out how much all your equipment costs and divide it up by an approximate number of shoots that you anticipate to do. And that's a great way to then say, hey, for each shoot, my equipment budget is probably going to be X amount. Because you took the commitment and the steps to becoming a professional and spending all these thousands of hours learning your craft, hey, that's worth something. And that's something that your client ultimately is paying for. Because they can buy your camera, they can buy your lights, and they can do that. But how they use it, that's totally something that they have to go through the learning process, just like you did. And that's a value. Just because it takes you 2 hours to create an awesome sizzle reel versus someone else taking 16, that actually doesn't mean that one or the other should get paid more or less. In fact, I would argue that if you're more efficient at what you do and you spend less time on it, your value should go up, because that means you're such an expert at what you do. You know exactly what the settings, you know exactly how to direct somebody, you know exactly how to shoot and edit, and you're so comfortable with your gear and your software that you're able to help your clients get something super fast. So part of valuing yourself is not just thinking about the hours, but also thinking about what is the job that entails. So number one thing about valuing yourself is not giving up ground. Just because you charge a certain amount and a client doesn't want to pay for that, it shouldn't be a knee-jerk reflex for you to drop your rates. In fact, you should stand firm in your ground. The reality of it is there's so many factors of why somebody would or would not choose to work with you. Sometimes they really are just at the end of their budget and they can't afford it. No problem. You should still hold on to faith that one day when they have the right budget, they're going to call you to do that work. Maybe they were just looking for the cheapest rate out there. Well, you don't want to compete with those clients anyway, because at the end of the day, they're not going to see the human behind the camera. They're just going to see the dollar sign that you're charging them to do some work. Now, speaking of value yourself too low, there's a certain instance where you can value yourself a little bit too high. Now, part of this conversation is not throwing extra things in there for the client just because you think it's going to be cool or sexy. It's all about appropriately budgeting what is actually needed to get that job done. Also, understanding where your clients are coming from is very important too. There's a big difference in honoring a nonprofit that is just starting up and getting work done for them quickly, efficiently, as with an established company that's maybe a Fortune 500 company that has the budget for a bigger crew or bigger equipment. So understanding both is super critical. And it all boils down to understanding that, hey, this isn't really about us and the gear that we want to use. It really is about the relationship and satisfying the client. What you'll find over time, though, is when you meet the client where they need to be, they trust you more. And so on future jobs, they'll give you that creative flexibility and leeway to try to throw in some things that you might personally think are really creative choices to help the client. Trust me, like Vinny was talking about developing your skills, your clients at the end of the day will be far more impressed with you as a problem solver than as somebody that always carries in the most expensive gear and has 50 different things on set every single time you shoot. Respecting their time and respecting their budget and what they need is going to take you way, way further than just buying a bunch of gear or hiking up the bid. Now, our final tip for you filmmakers, content creators, photographers, videographers out there is you can't do everything alone. Obviously, when you're starting out, we're one-man banding or we're one-woman banding it, right? And we're trying to do and wear all the hats at the same time. But at some point, you're going to get to a point where that's not going to be enough. And if I'm doing 5 different jobs, I can only do so much on each of those jobs, and it dilutes the whole quality of the project. But if I'm able to stay in my lane and get some other fellow creatives into the room with me to create, then we can elevate the quality for our clients and ultimately elevate the work that we're producing simply because we're asking for help. So part of that is the humility to know that, hey, we can't do everything at once. You might be a jack of all trades and you can do something in every department. You might be great with the camera, great with audio, an amazing gaffer, know everything about editing, and you're a great digital tech. But on set, you're still one person. You won't be able to do all 5 jobs or 6 jobs at once. So getting the right people and allowing you to focus on one job and having everyone else be trusted to do theirs is critical for you to elevate your career and get into bigger and bigger projects. It's never that fun to work by yourself anyway. It's great to have other folks around you that improve your mood, that elevate the spirit of the shoot, and ultimately are technicians that are really honing in on their craft as well. What's the old saying? A high tide raises all ships. And I truly believe that, because if we want to all get somewhere, it's a lot easier to do that together than by yourself. You can get far alone, but to get really far, it really takes a team. Having other people around you that are creative also give you a different creative vantage point. It's not just your way or the highway. Sometimes other folks have great ideas. We're all so unique in our vantage point and our creativity, how we approach a scene. You can take 10 different photographers taking 10 photos of the exact same thing, and they will all look different. And I encourage you to lean into that, not to avoid that or to be competitive or to gatekeep, but to really see what other people are seeing. Because ultimately that's going to give a fresh look or a different perspective on the same thing that we're doing day in and day out. Not only do I think it's important to work together with others, I think it's important to develop your creative talents alongside others outside of work. Going on photo walks or talking about gear or showing each other some things that we've learned, sharing tips and tricks and skills. Hey, even making videos like these on YouTube really go to foster the creative community at large. You're probably not going to be able to work with everybody that's creative out there, but you really can touch the whole community by just having the mentality of sharing versus competing and collaborating over gatekeeping all the information. So I encourage you guys to go out there and create a team, not just for work, but even in your personal life.
Hey, appreciate you guys a ton for tuning in and watching this video. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so and give us a thumbs up on this video. Let us know in the comments down below what kind of mistakes that you may have made in early on in your career and some things that you've learned from. We appreciate you guys a ton, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.